All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Beast Machines Deluxe Class Thrust. Now, Thrust is another one of those characters, just like Tankor, whose show model was redesigned after they did the toy for the show. So as a result, looks pretty much nothing like he did in the actual show. Like the colors are there, obviously turns into the right alt mode, but it's quite different than the design that ended up being in the show. So if they ever did an updated version of Thrust, I think that they would go more for the show design. And I don't know, maybe like a core class. He could probably be a deluxe. I don't know, the scale was always a little bit weird in Beast Machines just because like all of the Maximals are still technically supposed to be like really small. So some of the figures like Tankor, who turned into a tank, were just like absolutely massive compared to them. But I'm not sure how massive he would have been compared to like, other Autobots and Decepticons. And same thing with Thrust. He was kind of the same size as like the Maximals in the show, which would have made him pretty small compared to like other, more standard sized Transformers. But you could really kind of have it go either way. Regardless of whether or not he's accurate, this is a neat figure, not without issues, but he's got some cool stuff going on. One gimmick that he has in this mode is he's got, this kind of optional head up here that has the spark crystal on it, and that's tied to a gimmick with the central wheel here, so that when you roll him on the ground, the head kind of like looks back and forth. I mean, it only looks to the left and then back towards center, but still, it's kind of a neat gimmick there. The rest of him, it's like he doesn't roll super well. Like the front wheel barely rolls at all, which is a little bit ironic considering its problem in robot mode. But yeah, it's a neat looking alt mode. Personally, I don't know, like you can take this bit off, and I kind of prefer it without it because then it's not like a whole lot more accurate to how he looked in the show, but at least then he's got his actual robot mode head that you can kind of like pull out and have peek around like that, which I always thought was kind of neat. And I don't know, I could kind of go either way. The extra head looks kind of fine in both modes. It's not even implied to be like cheating or anything like that. It just ends up being his chest detail. I guess one thing to say is like, if you take it off, then you are removing the spark crystal from anywhere on the figure. And he does have this kind of ugly, square peg on the front afterwards. But, I kind of prefer it without it, but, I could really go either way there. Now, I am missing a missile that the figure originally had, which I think I've lost twice now because I had this guy as a kid and lost like several parts of him, and then I ended up getting a new copy on eBay a while ago that I'm pretty sure did come with a missile, and then I've lost it again. So I've twice lost this missile, but it only plugs into one of the hands because the other hand has a separate gimmick in robot mode. So then he's just got like a green missile sticking out one of the two sort of like exhaust pipes in his alt mode, which I always thought looked super weird. So I would always just take that off anyway and not have it on the figure, but worth mentioning. But yeah, in terms of comparisons in this mode, just for a standard size comparison, here he is with Deluxe Class Kingdom Sideswipe, and then here he is with Tankor from Beast Machines, so you can see what two of the original three generals looked like. I don't have Jetstorm. I used to as a kid, but again, that's the one that looks the least accurate to his version of the show. So I've never been super bothered about trying to get the figure back, but I'm sure that they'll do a new version of these three at some point that actually look like their show models. But that's what the two of them look like together. In terms of transformation, you can leave this on or take it off. It stays in the same place, so I'll leave it on for the sake of. But you've got a few options with the robot mode. I'll go to the kind of standard one first, and then kind of show the different options. But first thing you want to do is just take this bit here, and it'll just slide in like that. You want to take these bits with the arms and just fold them out like that. Well, actually, I don't know. I guess for this transformation, you don't really need to do that. You can take the arms themselves, and they fold out like that. They're on this, hinge here, and then a ball joint at the base of the chrome bit there. For the base robot mode, you just split this wheel and then just fold it out like that. And you can kind of widen it a little bit. You need to widen it a little bit just so you have the clearance to take this striped section and fold it down like that, and then unpeg this and then kind of fold it down to the side, and then bring these as close up to those as you can. So it kind of leaves, the arms a little bit extended out, but not by that much. And then you take this whole central section here, and you can kind of take the the head first. When you have this piece attached, the head is kind of a pain to get out. You have to kind of like pull it out like that, and then you take this whole section and slide it up into place, and then you take the legs here, split them, and then fold out these little heels and toes here. So even though this wheel did not spin very well in alt mode, in robot mode they spin quite well, which is not great. But yeah, definitely gonna have to adjust the camera here. But here's we have thrust in his base robot mode, which yeah, gonna take me a minute to get him to stand here because we'll talk about it. But he's got some stability issues. The choice to have the wheel feet there is like, I understand it, but it does not work in the figure's favor, especially since, like, you know, in alt mode, since they're, you know, two of these joints kind of combined together, it doesn't even roll that well, but they're super wobbly and floppy. I wish that there was some way to actually like lock those into place in robot mode, because you know, one, the feet are always just spinning around, which is annoying, but, you know, not the end of the world. But just the slight bit of give that, you know, the looseness of this joint needs to have for the wheels to roll means that he has a really hard time standing up, because he's got like that much wiggle in his feet, and he's very top heavy. So it's yeah, it's kind of a nightmare getting him to like stand in a way where he's not looking like super awkward and, you know, like hunched forward or something. But you can do it. It's just kind of a pain. In terms of articulation, the head is on a ball joint here at the base of the neck, and then a hinge at the top of the, you know, neck there with the head. And then also his mouth can open, which is not accurate to how he was in the show, because basically his show model head was more just like that. Like, it didn't have like a moving mouth, but still, you know, as a design, I think that looks kind of cool. The shoulders here are on ball joints here at the base, but because they stick out at this like 45-degree angle, it kind of limits the range of motion there. But yeah, I mean, you can get some poses. It's just a little bit of a pain to work with. The elbows are on ball joints, which, you know, also gives him a bicep swivel, and then, you know, a little over 90 degrees of bend at the elbow there. The one hand that has the missile gimmick, you can pose the fingers out like this. They're all on little hinges, which is nice. The other hand has this other gimmick where if you know, pull this bit forward, it kind of extends out the arm and then like springs open the claws a little bit. So it's like that. So you can't individually pose those claws on their own, but still it's kind of a neat gimmick. Nothing at the waist, obviously. The hips are on ball joints, which can rotate forward and back and about that far out to the side. He has these really nice piston knees, so they unfortunately don't even go the full 90 because of that, but at least it's kind of a, you know, cool function to have the, you know, the piston actually sliding up and down like that. And then the ankles do have ankle tilt and obviously can rotate around. And then like you can fold these in, but it's not meaningfully useful in this mode, especially because like you're not getting him standing if his feet aren't totally flat on the ground regardless. And even sometimes then. So it's you know, like I said, you can usually get him standing. It's more so he just like, you know, wants to lean forward or back a little bit, and you have to like adjust the angle of the body to kind of, you know, accommodate for that. And then as a result, he always looks a little bit stilted in his posture. So, you know, it's not great. It's just kind of a pain, but it's, you know, manageable. And then if you're curious, this is what he looks like without the secondary chest piece on there. And personally, I like that look better. It just looks a little bit cleaner. You can see more of his weird freaky neck, and so it's not hidden behind the like windscreen bit there. But you know, like I said, I'm kind of fine either way, but if I had my preference, I usually take that piece off. So yeah, this arm had the missile gimmick, like I said, where you could hit the trigger there and shoot that out. Now, there are a few other options for the robot mode, because he does come with a sort of like tertiary like secondary robot mode, where it's like a little bit more accurate to how he was in the show, where if you combine these pieces back up, obviously you can make him look more how he did in the show, where he was like on the mono wheel. Now, because this is a real figure that exists in real space, obviously he can't stand if you have that going on. So to accommodate that, what they've done is they've given these pieces separate joints, so you can fold them down like this, and instead of, you know, you kind of give them like a tricycle mode, which, you know, it's not really that much more accurate to how he was in the show. It's kind of a cool mode in and of itself as like a robot transport mode, but I don't know. But also, if you want to still leave the legs out how they were, you could just leave those the other wheel pieces down. I think that they look marginally better when they're up, but at least with this, you've got more of the like mass facing like down toward the body, so it makes them a little bit more stable. And then you can do whatever you want with these. I usually leave them out like this, but you could fold them down so he's got like turbine detail here, so you could have like that be how you have him posed. Either way, you can see how much easier it was to get him to stand that way, whereas if you have him up like this, he's just got so much more weight up here that it's just like much more of an uphill battle to actually get him reasonably standing. But that being said, I do think he looks better with these up like that, and it's still not impossible to get him to stand. So you've got a few options there, to each their own. None of them are like great options, but it works well enough. In terms of comparisons in this mode, just for the standard one, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe. So you can see, because of how like tall and lanky he is, he's a rather tall deluxe. Like, he really just towers over Sideswipe. He's taller than some modern Voyagers, and even taller than Tank War, who is a Voyager from the same toy line as he was. He's a little bit taller than him, which obviously does not really work scale-wise with how they were in the show, because Tank War was like massive and Thrust was like would have been down here. So if they did new versions of these guys, I would think that they would want to make like either Tank War a leader and him a deluxe, a smallish deluxe, or make Tank War a Voyager and make him a core class, and then make a Thrust or make Jetstorm a deluxe. I don't know, but either way, the scale with these two does not really work. But they're such deviations from their show designs anyway that just they look okay as figures in and of themselves with each other. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to Thrust. He's kind of a mess. But he's a decent figure. I've always really liked the color scheme, though he does not look like the show model like really much at all. I do like the design, and I don't really blame them for not doing a super accurate model, because like, how are you going to do the mono wheel thing unless he like comes with a separate stand or something? I don't even know how they'll do that with like a new figure if they end up doing a new version of Thrust. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see. I'm sure they'll get to that eventually, since Thrust is a trademark that they like to refresh every once in a while anyway. But yeah, no, he's a cool figure. Like I said, does not look like the show model, but he's fun in and of himself. Really, just like the big downside of this figure is his stability in robot mode, just because of those wheel feet, which again don't even really roll all that well in alt mode, which is kind of a shame. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to him. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. And without further ado, here we have Transformers Beast Machines Deluxe Class Thrust.